Hi, my name is Naomi Kim, and for my psychology and film project, I will be doing Batman Begins. So, Batman Begins takes place in Gotham City, which is a city full of corruption where the poor live in horrible conditions and the rich get to thrive. And the rich only thrive because they help each other with no consideration to the poor. So, the character I chose is Bruce Wayne. He is an only child growing up in the nicer part of Gotham, and his parents were contributors to the city and they were very rich. And why would he be diagnosed, you may ask? Well, in the beginning of the movie, he fell into a hole and then he injured himself and then was swarmed by a bunch of bats. And later it was revealed that he developed a fear of him. And as a kid, it probably was very traumatizing to experience such a thing. And so I would diagnose him with cryptophobia, which is a fear of bats. And bats didn't really harm him, but any symbol of them seemed to get him like scared and showed like a lot of anxiety around him. Which leads to like a flashback when he went to an opera with his parents. There were a few stunt actors posing as bats, and he seemed to become very nervous and shaky and possibly had like rapid breathing during it. And those are two symptoms of anxiety: trembling and shaking, shortness of breath. Another symptom noted was sweating, which he seemed to have after recalling his first encounter with the bats. He woke up very disoriented and had like a light sheen of sweat on him. Some symptoms not found were stomach discomfort, tingling, and pounding heart. Now, stomach discomfort, there was no double over in the movie. However, with tingling and pounding heart, the only reason why they aren't found is because they aren't a visual symptom that we can notice as viewers of a movie. Symptoms not present just doesn't mean that they don't exist. Maybe the movie just wasn't able to portray it as well as they could have. And non-present symptoms does not really rule out a diagnosis, because as long as the criteria that they have an irrational fear on subject is the one true requirement with at least a handful of symptoms. In a study regarding treatment effectiveness, not every participant had the same symptoms and not everyone showed the symptoms at the same degree. So obviously, like, if you don't have certain symptoms, that's okay, because as long as you have the other ones and as long as it supports like your irrational fear, it is a specific phobia. Since bats are animals, different cultures might perceive them in different ways. In American culture, it would be accepted as bats are associated with scary things like dark haze and vampires, and the movie does seem to embrace American culture, so within the movie context, it would also be acceptable. However, based on an article in the Journal of Ethnobiology, there are cultures across the world that have a positive association with bats, such as blessing, so it's unclear whether or not every culture accepts this type of fear. Because of you have to note how Western media and culture would have affected other cultures, such as movies with bats in scary contexts, such as Batman Begins. We don't know if other cultures have accepted or embraced the fear of bats, but we also don't know if they like shun the idea. You know what I mean? So I would recommend exposure therapy because it is one of the most effective treatment plans for specific phobia. Because it is a creature in our everyday world, it is realistically possible to proceed with exposure therapy. Similar to the study of treatment of spider phobia, the patient must consent to this form of treatment because it could be quite invasive and uncomfortable to experience. Within the film context, though, it might be hard for someone to seek help when the help is corrupted. Because one of the villains in this movie was a psychiatrist himself, he was giving his patients a toxin to make them more crazy than normal, and that would most likely cause a lot of people to not like the idea of seeking help from people who might make them feel worse. However, Bruce Wayne is someone with a lot of money and decent power, so he probably would be able to get a decent psychiatrist in Gotham. Does it make sense? The movie doesn't seem to show an accurate portrayal of specific phobia, as it doesn't seem accurate or realistic for someone to embody the idea of a Batman and then have a fear of bats. It also doesn't make sense for him to train himself to be the fear, and it also doesn't make sense that he has to overcome his fear, and then a toxin made his fear scary again, and then an antidote made him forever immune. But most critics would say that's just movie logic. Within the camera movement and editing, the experience of these mental illnesses are portrayed in a frightening way and provides a look into what these people might truly experience in real life. So it would definitely help in like reality for people to understand what others might be going through, because anxiety does come in different levels, different forms, different shapes, different sizes, and having like a mild portrayal of it and also a really extreme scary portrayal of it, it does really help others in understanding what others could be going through. And that is all. Thank you.